was here.
Okay, we're streaming.
Okay, so we've got a little bit of paper. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for coming. The format today is we'll call you forward, grab a seat up here close by. We don't need the health and safety again, do we? In terms of an earthquake, run outside the playground. We'll all meet up there. You come up and grab a seat here. You have 5 minutes in total, which is about 3 minutes of speaking time, allowing 1 to 2 minutes for questions from the councillors. Narita from the Māori Standing Committee is online. Amy here to my right will give you the little sign signal at the 3 minute mark, so you know where you're at. We've read the written applications. We have copies in front of us. The idea is to speak in support of your application, expand on your application, focus on key points, and the final thing is this meeting is being live streamed, so watch your language. People are watching. And I think that's it, isn't it? We're all good at that. So coming up first, Pat and Lloyd from the Martinborough Community Patrol. You want to come and grab a seat? I don't know. Lloyd, what is your last name? Warren. Lloyd Warren. Thanks, man. Okay. Thank you very much. Begin when ready.
Okay, for giving us the opportunity to be here.
Pleasure.
As you know, I'm Pat Beard. I'm the treasurer of the Martinborough Community Patrol. Lloyd is in charge of our car. We purchased our current vehicle. It's a Honda CR-V. We purchased it in 2016, funded by grants, private donations, and our own funds. This gave us a dedicated vehicle, which is in line with CP&Z required from us. When we set the patrol up 27 years ago, everybody used their own car, their own expense. It was covert patrolling, no identification at all. We moved on to the magnetic signs that went on the side of the car so that we were saying community patrol. Then ideas changed even more, and CP&Z required us to have our own vehicle, which is white, dedicated, signage, high visibility, saying Martinborough Community Patrol. Our Wairarapa Police Liaison Officer, Sergeant Ian Osmond at the time, he encouraged and assisted all the Wairarapa patrols to get their own vehicles. Now, we knew it wasn't going to last forever. So we're now at replacement time. So we set up a working group of our patrollers to look at it, and they came back with an EV recommendation. Before Lloyd explains why, I'd just like to say from the Treasurer's point of view, look at our AGM balance sheet. We've got local businesses that sponsor our fuel costs, but the vehicle needs more than fuel. We've got to register it, we've got to insure it, we've got to maintain it, we've got to hope that petrol costs don't go up, and sponsorship is not guaranteed for life. An EV would give us financial security. And Lloyd is going to explain why and what an EV will do.
Hello there. Yes, so obviously the EV being electric, and we're going to cut on petrol costs and servicing costs greatly. We do approximately 35 to 40 kilometres on a Friday and Saturday night. We only patrol Friday and Saturday night at the moment. Having an EV will give us the opportunity to recruit more patrols and particularly do a lot more patrols during the week as well, or even longer patrols on the weekend. Currently, we start about 10:30 in the evening and go to about 12:30 midnight, after midnight. And possibly we can expand that, obviously, because we've got the cost is so much lower. Buying an EV, we looked at it very closely. It's the state of the health of the battery we're looking at. We want one with at least 75%, and that'll very conservatively get us at least 100 kilometres. I'll probably get us 200, but we've been conservative here. So we do about 35 kilometres every night, 70 kilometres a weekend at the moment. And the cost to recharge it actually will be nothing, because we've got patrollers on board that are willing to charge them at home for free anyway. So we don't even have that cost really. But the better battery we can get, we won't have to replace it sooner. You know, if you get one that's like 50% state of health, we're going to replace it in 4 to 5 years, and you're looking at $7,000. So we want to get the best battery we can, or best car, but obviously everything focuses on the battery really when you're talking EVs. And that's really it. The cost of savings has to be a lot. Yeah.
Pat, anything else you want to add, or you,
Sorry,
anything you want to add to that, or you?
I think Lloyd's done it brilliantly. He knows far more about cars than I.
Cool,
Have you
done,
got any questions for us? I think.
your worship, do
Yes, I do have one question. Now, if I understand it correctly, when you did buy your current car,
Yep.
you went and sought a community board grant,
We did.
and did the community board grant it?
Yes.
It did,
We
okay.
got 2,000.
Okay, have you been back to the community board this time, please?
No, we have come here.
Okay,
Why have you not gone back to the community board?
Probably a very good question. We are really hoping that you will actually approve our grant and we won't need to.
you do understand they are a wing of council.
Yes, they are. But we certainly would not apply for both. We would go. Here.
Yeah.
Woody?
Yeah, thanks for coming along. So you said, some of you guys are kind of charging them home, so these people already got electric cars, so they have a charging station at home. There's no cost involved in adding that to their
Well,
houses, or?
The car we imagine would come with a trickle charger. You could just plug it into your, ideally, we want the car parked outside the police station where it is now. So we all live very close to that area. And so it'd only be a matter of even overnight, charging overnight, and then it goes back to the police station. We could look at a power plant there, but it's just an expense we don't need. Really is, unless the police come, but I can't see that.
They are looking at it.
They are looking at it. So if that, ideally, that would be good if there was, but then again, it's probably safer if someone's, I mean, we've got at least 3 patrollers that are willing to do it, and, but no one sort of wants the car at their place all the time, pretty obviously because it's marked and all that. So it would just end up at the police station most of the time.
Once it's charged up.
Yeah, but even the charging, it's been worked out, it's between $3 to $4 a night. And we reckon that would go for the whole weekend, actually, not just one night.
Yeah.
So we're looking, so it only needs to be charged really once a week.
Yeah.
But possibly more if we can, the cost savings will be so much that we are hoping, as I said, to recruit more patrollers and do more patrols,
The only sort of little issue I would have with a second-hand battery here, they don't last forever, and they aren't that great for the environment when you go to get rid of them.
No.
They can't be recycled. That's the only issue, but no. Very good. I love what you guys do around the communities.
Thank you, yeah.
Do you get anything from CPNZ? They're an actual organisation,
They don't provide,
so they dictate what you have to do, but they don't give any funding accordingly.
if they funded patrols, they would be bankrupt. There are an awful lot of them around.
A lot of them, yeah.
We're not just one.
Okay.
They provide us with all our training, all our backup and everything else. But funding, no, it's up to a patrol to do it.
Okay.
It's a community organisation.
Lovely. Any other questions? Perfect. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Rebecca, are you here? So Rebecca is the Hawkeye Tahi Trust.
Yeah.
It's a second to find you. There's a lot of applications in there. Okay. That one. Yeah, you got it? Okay, you're familiar with what the rules are? Begin whenever you're ready.
Oh, thank you. Kia ora, ko tōku ingoa, ko Rebecca Vilgans tōku ingoa. Ko au te whaiwhakahaere o Hawkeye Tahi. My name is Rebecca Vilgans, the Service Manager for Hawkeye Tahi Charitable Trust, based in the Wairarapa. So thank you, Mayor, councillors and staff for having me along today and for considering all the applications. And also kia ora Narita on Zoom. So I just wanted to provide a couple extra details to our application, and then very happy to take questions. So a couple of updates. We have a start date for our South Wairarapa Clinic, which is very exciting, which is the 5th of October. And so we're going to be based out of Five Rivers every Thursday from 9 till 4. We're going to have a drop-in time of 10 till 12 every Thursday where people can come along, pick up baby items, get a free pregnancy test, access advice, etc. between that 10 and 12 p.m. And then either side of that, we have appointment slots for more confidential or longer appointments. So we're really hoping that by providing this service in South Wairarapa, we're going to be much more accessible to women down this end of town. Because at the moment it's quite a trek to come up to Masterton, especially if a woman's already feeling stressed or there's other hardships going on in her life. It's also quite good timing because your parenting group is starting up in Featherston this month, end of this month. So it'd be much better provision for pregnant people or those suffering baby loss in the South Wairarapa. We're also now the only support service in the Wairarapa that provides this type of service. So SANS, I don't know if you're familiar with SANS, they provide stillbirth and antenatal death support worldwide, but the local branch has actually just requested that Hokaitahi take this over on their behalf as well. So we've kind of merged services in that regard. So yeah, we're the only service that really provides this sort of support within the Wairarapa. So that's basically the little updates I thought I'd provide, and happy to take any questions if you have them.
Okay, thanks very much, Rika.
Yes, I have one, and thank you very much for that. Mine is partly an observation and partly a question. My observation is that I live in Greytown, and when I walk the streets of Greytown, I'm struck by how young I am. When I walk the streets of Featherston, I'm struck by how old I am. And it seems to me that if I wanted to cater to and assist young parents, that I would be setting up shop in Featherston. Can I ask why that's not happening?
We did consider Featherston. One of the biggest draw cards for us for going to Greytown was just felt a bit more central, so we can even capture women coming from Carterton if they choose to come. Bit more central. And then the second one was really just around confidentiality. So the medical centre in Greytown, Featherston didn't have room for us, and the community centre just didn't feel quite as confidential as the service that we could provide based out of Five Rivers. And also there's a very good medical community based out of Five Rivers, and just having that support around us, and the nurse practitioners can also send referrals straight to us down the hallway is a big bonus for us. So, yeah, but it's still very much a trial, and so we'll see how we go.
Councillor Woodcock.
Well, more an observation than anything. It sounds like a great concept. I personally know some people that could have benefited hugely from this a few years ago. So best of luck to everything working out.
Thank you.
Rebecca, my question is around the 7,500 that you applied for appears to be to pay the rent at Five Rivers.
Actually, yes.
Are you getting rent support from the landlords at Five Rivers? Are they cutting some slack here with what you're doing? How's that working?
They've given us a charge for the room. Yeah.
Which is 7,500.
It's $125 plus GST per day. That's the price of the.
Yeah, so the annual cost here is 7,500.
Yeah.
Which is the amount that you've applied for as well.
Well, yes, but so Nico Foundation's already committed $4,000 towards our rent. So that's about 6 months of rent. And so we're asking South Wairarapa for $3,500 of that balance, and then additional $3,000 to go towards our support coordinator costs.
Oh, so the amount applied for in this application is 7,500.
Yes, that's correct. But if you have a look at our little breakdown on the table, half of that's going towards rent and half would go towards our support coordinator, or roughly half costs. Yeah. Hopefully that makes sense.
Rita might have one.
Yeah, Narita, have you got any questions?
Oh, kia ora tātou. E mihi ana kia koe, Rebecca. Nice to see you. Just to congratulate you on your kaupapa. That sounds great. You know, more services for South Wairarapa mums. Kei te pai. And that was actually the same thing that I noticed too, is the costing and the cost of the rent equal to what you're applying for. And the same thing that sort of crossed my mind, was there any something from Five Rivers to cut you guys some slack as well, you know, just to bring some of those operational costs down would be great for you guys. But otherwise, I think it's a great kaupapa. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Anything else? No? Thanks, Nadia. Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Much appreciated.
Thank you for your time.
Sarah McClintock. Gentlemen, this is the Aotearoa Regional Trust. Have a seat, Sarah. Thank you. Good.
I'm Sarah McClintock, the Director of Aotearoa Wairarapa Museum of Art and History. Because I can't help myself, I work in a visual field. I do have some visuals here myself. So just to give an idea about what the kind of thing we're talking about. I'll just talk really briefly to the application, but then we'll go into questions, of course. We've had a long and fruitful relationship with the South Wairarapa District Council, which I very much thank you for. As you'll note from our application, we care for significant South Wairarapa collections, both particularly taonga Māori, incredible pieces that we have for whānau, but also in our collection. We also are the only professional museum in the Wairarapa, and by professional I mean we are part of a community of very great, passionate museum colleagues here, say the Farnborough Museum and Cobblestones, but as a professional museum, we're the only museum not run by volunteers. We have very experienced and highly qualified staff who provide advice, really be an advocacy platform for the Wairarapa museum and cultural sector. So that includes supporting our museum colleagues who, as their volunteer run, are usually stretched a bit thin or don't have the museum contacts that we have to be able to leverage. And also for the arts community, we are very, very supportive and promoting of the South Wairarapa artists. As you'll note from the application, just under half of our exhibitions in the upcoming 12 months either showcase a single South Wairarapa artist or will tell a story connected to South Wairarapa's history. So I mean, I definitely think that thing to put in mind is that while we might be physically located in Masterton, we are the Wairarapa Museum of Art and History. And I'll also make a note that if you look at the figures, the amount that we're requesting is, if you look at our overall operating, it is an incredibly small amount, but it does allow us to put into our operations really South Wairarapa focused things. In fact, a little update today, we've just entered conversations with library teams from Carterton and South Wairarapa about ways in which we could potentially showcase the Wairarapa collections with the libraries. So making our presence physically a lot more noticeable in the South Wairarapa. As well as reaching out to more emerging spaces like Common Ground in Featherston, and making sure that we don't lose those art spaces in their infancies and they can really bed into the community by aligning with us. And through education. Education is the biggest push that we've got to really outreach to our rural and our South Wairarapa communities to provide support for teachers. I know if any of you know educators, the curriculum, particularly around New Zealand histories, is a bit of a worry for some teachers, and that's where we can come in and where we are coming in to really support those teachers. So rather than take up too much time just going through the application, I thought I'd see if there are any particular questions or general questions you might have.
Great, thank you, Sarah. We should lead off.
So I think I heard you say that you were in consultation with South Wairarapa Libraries about displaying South Wairarapa art in the local libraries or local settings.
Literally just a conversation that started today, so it's very much in its infancy.
So could you tell us what you've done in the past year to foster those sorts of activities in the South Waikato?
I will caveat this as saying that I have literally been director for a year. So a lot of my time for the last year has been getting to know our community, not making too many promises that we can't achieve, given that I wanted to know what our ongoing funding would look like. I would hate to come in and swoop in and say that we can solve all the problems and then funding is such that we simply can't solve those problems. But a lot of it has been me and us as a community, as an organisation, trying to rebuild relationships, not really rebuild. So the relationships have already been there, but when you go through a leadership change, it's about making sure that those people in places like Cobblestones and the museum here and the arts community know that under my leadership, it's a place that they can trust. So I've definitely been reaching out to artists in the communities, making sure that as a gallery, particularly an art gallery space, that we prioritise showing local Wairarapa artists, which is why you'll see that our ongoing commitment is that we have half of our programming looking very South Wairarapa focused, because we are aware and we are acknowledging that we have really great artists there, and we have the ability with our networks to raise the profile of the arts in South Wairarapa.
Brilliant.
Thanks very much for coming along. Great little museum. I'm just noticing you've had quite a good surplus of funds in the last couple of years. What do you put that surplus towards, or does it get stuck aside for a rainy day? Or
a lot of it gets stuck aside for a rainy day. Again, this is all before my time, but I am aware of very, very hard financial times that a lot of our board lived through, say 10, 15 years ago. And so a lot of focus for the last, particularly since 2016, a lot of focus is ensuring that we have a fund set aside that does mean that we are not facing the problems that we faced 10 years ago, in which the ongoing ability to run the gallery and museum was looking uncertain. So that is what that money is focused on, is ensuring that we aren't in a position where we don't have that sort of rainy day situation.
right, it's a great little presentation you've given us. That's all from me. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Thanks, Woody. So it says previously you've had 15,000 per annum from XWC, and now after 25,000. Is this a 25,000 per year for the next 3 years? Is that what you're asking for?
Ideally, there is a level at which we were previously funded. 25,000 is what we were until around 2019. When a lot of funding got cut around COVID times, things like that. So ideally, from my perspective, it'd go back to our previous funding of 25, because again, that allows us to really focus on the South Wairarapa. We're still, when you compare us to other galleries and museums, we are significantly underfunded and under-resourced when it comes to staffing, and the ongoing support of South Wairarapa means that we have the ability to maintain our staffing levels and actually do a bit of a push, particularly in education and outreach into the South Wairarapa.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Narita, do you have anything?
Thank you very much for the presentation. And yeah, as a big fan of Aratoi. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Max? Well, this is Narita, Martinborough Museum.
First, I would just like to thank you for allowing us to speak today. Much appreciated. The Martinborough Museum has been going for about 46 years. And during those times, the council has been very supportive of us. We're unique. We don't try and copy what Heritage Museum or Feldu or cobblestones. We are concentrating on our local and district history, and providing the visitors with a view of what it was like in the late 17th century with our displays. We operate as a charitable trust. We have 5 trustees and a secretary. And we also have 28 volunteers who some are very active. We have 3 people trained in oral history, and they go around speaking with people, recording their view of what happened in their youth or what they knew about local history. We have approximately 2,300 visitors last year, and these numbers are back up to pre-COVID. And we also have a number of activities. Our major achievement this year was we've got what we call the secure room, which is we had some old cabinets displaying artifacts and other memorabilia, and we actually contacted Aratoy, and they assisted us to help us design the cabinets that we've got. And they also use rigs, and we went to rigs and got a quote off rigs. And so all up, I think we spent about 19,000. We fundraised, and we spent 19,000 making sure the cabinets we purchased were ideal for the situation, and also they provide good storage, which we were lacking. So our main goal is to preserve our local history and artifacts. We educate people through our displays and the interacting with them through. We have a video display, and we are setting up an audio system, which we're working on now, and that's one of our projects. We're actually in our financial year because we started 1st of April.
Right.
So that's one of the activities, and the other one is the police station. We've got the old Martinborough police station, and at the moment it's been used for storage, but we're opening that up for a display area. We just have to make sure we can secure the area so that items can't be stolen. So we're in the throes of doing that. What else?
3 minutes, Mike.
So our income from the visitors was approximately 4,200 for the last financial year, which is roughly about $2 per visitor. Some visitors are very generous and others don't pay. We would like to develop a system where everyone has to maybe zap a card, a pay wave on the way through. There are systems like that, but at the moment they're quite expensive. But I'm sure as time goes on, we'll be able to afford something where everyone has to pay a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, and
People ask questions.
yeah. Is there any questions?
All right. Please, more.
Are the questions in the 5 minutes?
They are, yeah.
Okay, you better leave some time.
We've got 15 seconds left.
Nothing that Pam would like to add at this point.
Just that we certainly have appreciated the grant that we had in the past, and also the fact that that was for the 3-year term, which gave us some security as to the income we were having to be able to do the extra things in the museum and to cover the basic costs of the museum.
So my question is a very brief one. Have you sought funding from the community board?
No, we haven't, have we, Nick?
No.
No. And probably the reason for that is that council have always been supportive, and because it's a community thing that covers the whole community, we've the applications have been through the council. And I'm only just new onto the museum, so I'm still learning from Max and the rest of the team as well, so.
Thanks, Pat. Woody?
Yeah, thanks for coming along with your time. It's pretty self-explanatory. These things do take a little bit of money to keep them rolling, and you don't want to lose them. So.
Yeah.
Come.
Narita, do you have any questions? Is Narita gone? No,
I think she's still there.
still there?
She's still online.
Narita, have you got any questions? Right, there's a negative. I see a little hand up or anything.
The other little thing is about this 3-year term. It's actually quite good for likes of a trust, of a museum trust, to have surety of the income over that 3-year period,
So you
rather than having to come back every year.
So you want the 2,000 per year for the next 3 years is what you'd like to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
It does makes a big, it's a big help. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, John didn't turn up, did he? From Papua? No. Okay, John, Act 4. Right, Act 4. Rachel and Nick, you guys want to come forward? Oh, Narita, you're back. Oh. Assuming no questions, all right? There's a different one.
The one you sent on a separate email.
Pack 4's in a separate email, yeah, it was so big.
What number is it again, Martin? Please?
Pack 4, this is 202324. It was a separate attachment.
Okay, thank you.
The file was too big. So I won't say that any more times. That's what I asked when I say it. We just got to find it now. Where are we?
It's all these fabulous photos, isn't it?
God is used to applying for grants, is what I suspect. So just to recap, guys, 3 minutes roughly speaking time, 1 or 2 minutes questions. News online, live streaming. Good to go whenever you are.
Cool. Well, thank you first for the opportunity for us to present to you today. Nick and I are here to talk to you all about support for our Midwinter Festival. Obviously, I'll take it that the papers have all been read, so I'll just go through the key points. It is the biggest event now in Wairarapa. We had over 50,000 people attend this year, 2023. The numbers grow every year. It is free. I just want to reiterate that it is free. And it is for all sectors of our community. It goes for the month of July over 5 weekends and 5 full weeks when there is nothing else going on in the region. All you need to do is be signing up to Destination Wairarapa's What's On in Wairarapa emails to see that there is really nothing else happening in that month. It has positively changed behaviour for Wairarapa residents and improved social, economic and cultural wellbeing for our region. The festival needs more support. The business community put up half the funding. We can't stretch them any further. And this festival has now grown and become something that really is for the community. It far extends the business community. It far extends beyond Greytown, extends beyond Featherston, Martinborough and the whole Wairarapa. And we get huge engagement from Wellington also and from outside the region. In addition to that, we have become victims of our own success, which has resulted in increased costs. That's include shutting down State Highway 2 to keep people safe because of the huge number of attendees that come to the event and across the month. There's increased waste management costs, and obviously there's just significant cost to put something like this on that is free and isn't ticketed. We're grateful for the funding we've received from South Wairarapa District Council. The event has grown, the festival has grown significantly and evolved.
Okay, let's look at the facts. Okay, inject $4 million into our community. We've got 50,000 people that come into Greytown, Martinborough, and even Masterton to stay from Wellington or talk further afield from Auckland, etc. They come down for one of the weekends or one of the weeks. No, so it's bringing foreign currency into our region. It goes for 31 days. I spent 10 years organising Wings Over Wairarapa, and we lost so many air shows from COVID or water or rain or fog. This event goes for 31 days in the quietest month of the year for our region, okay? That to me is what's really special, okay? 94% of attendees feel more pride to live in the Wairarapa based on their festival. 94% of people believe the festival makes the Wairarapa a better place to live, okay? 50% of businesses that are in Greytown over the festival employed more people, okay? Yes, 20 community groups involved and 75 businesses involved. We believe we've got a strong social wellbeing, economic wellbeing and cultural wellbeing factor from what we do with the festival.
I think that thing too, the 75 businesses are the businesses that contribute. There are significantly more businesses that benefit.
Cool. Thank you very much. Great presentation. Fabulous. Your worship, do you want to lead off?
Thank you. So this grant that's being applied for is $20,000. What in fact is the council getting for $20,000?
40,000.
Well, I'm sorry, but I'm reading something that says 20,000. I got the wrong. I am looking at the wrong page. Do apologise.
Oh, it doesn't alter your question.
It doesn't.
So what does the council get?
Well, let's put it another way.
Yeah.
If the council doesn't give $40,000, what will we notice?
Apart from the $4 million injection into the economy and 50,000 visitors, significant increase in social well-being, businesses surviving. There are a number of businesses that would not survive without the festival, let alone thrive.
I don't think you understood the question.
Oh, sorry.
The question is, what is it that our grant gets that we don't get without it?
I think the big answer on that one there is when 94% of people believe it makes the Wairarapa a better place to live. One of the criteria is social well-being. Our people are feeling so much more better about the environment, their residence, the place that they live over what is a very quiet month of the year.
I guess the key thing with this festival is it is free for the community and it goes for a month. It needs to have support from the community in order to fund that for the community.
I'll give you one more chance to answer the question because you've evaded it so far. What I want to know is, what is it that gets purchased with our $40,000?
Oh, okay, sorry. So there's a number of costs, but there's free lighting and there is there's road closure costs. There are there's a significant number of things that come into the cost. There's free entertainment.
It's also support for the community groups such as Cobblestones and the rugby club and the soccer club and things like that we have to help organise and allow them to use the festival as a fundraising opportunity.
So provide the platform for them to be able to raise money and get engaged in community activity and help them thrive.
Those 20 community groups all benefit from it. Some of them we pay to do help with rubbish or set up lights or clean up streets, but others will run sausage sizzles, run events at Cobblestones, at the church, and it actually gives them an opportunity to commercialise themselves rather than actually you having to donate potentially more money to help prop them up. And I'm a firm believer that it's like actually help people help themselves.
I think with the next comment was like, does 40 grand go, is it like administration costs? Is it
Road closure, organisation. Road closure is a big one. As Rachel said, we're a victim of our own success. Now we're having to shut the roads because it's gone from 15,000 people in 2020 to 50,000 people now. You look at that, that's everyone in the Wairarapa engaged, not 50,000 people in the Wairarapa. So that's how big it's got. When our small town of 2,600 has those sort of numbers coming into it, we're sweltering.
There's rubbish, obviously there's huge waste management costs now that have, with the waste management changes, with that volume of people that attend, there's significant costs and that alone.
Woody?
Thanks for coming, of course. We know it's a great little event. So when you talk about 50,000 people and 4 million in the community and etc., where do you get these figures? Where does who does the polling or whatever?
So we use a company called Fresh Info, independent company that surveys various events and activities throughout New Zealand. So we were fortunate to receive some funding from the Wellington Regional Events Fund last year and the year prior. And so some of that funding was used for that independent survey data. What also is interesting with that is they can benchmark against other events and festivals and activities around the country. And the benchmarking shows that, so we talked about the 94% of attendees finding the Wairarapa a better place to live. The benchmark about that, it's 70% at other events is an average. So it's significantly higher than what you're seeing at other events and festivals around the country. So that's that's data that's independently collected.
Any questions, guys? Narita, do you have a question? No question at this stage. We're 15,000 to 50,000. It's massive. How do you see it going forward? Projections going forward? And
We never thought we'd get to where we have. And the amount of feedback we have from people that have gone, I still haven't been, or I'm coming next year. And even people that come for the opening or the second weekend and want to come back 2 or 3 times. Like you're watching kids, parents take the kids across the road, so they missed the candy floss machine because they've had to buy candy floss 2 or 3 weekends in a row. The engagement is massive. I don't know where this is heading. And as Rach said, we are victims of our own success. A big step forward for us is having to shut the road. And when NZTA say, you guys have got too many people, that's success. I also think, and I'm a commercial dude, I want to make $1. Okay, there's no doubt about that. Where we've hamstrung ourselves is this event is free. And for me, it's only really this year I've realised the importance of that when you see the smiles on people's faces, when they've got snow landing on their shoulders, and they might be 4 years old, they might be 90 years old, you know? That's value. That's real value.
Cheering when you hear the fireworks, so you can actually hear people cheering through town. And I know a number of you were there at the festival on the fireworks night. I mean,
joy on people's faces.
that's true, though. It is true. You know,
I'm going to wrap this up because we're running over time. The 40,000, is that an ongoing? Is that spread over 3 years? Is that a one-off? Ongoing. So if you guys
we just need to get some financial security with this. We rely so heavily on the businesses and what this has become as a free community event.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you can appreciate that we don't have a great, huge pot of money.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
We've got significant demands, or requests, I should say, demands on it.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we always cut our cloth to suit, but there's a certain amount of money that we need to make sure it can go ahead. And we would never put on a festival that we don't think could be at least as good as the previous one, because there's an expectation there. And, you know, obviously we are aggressively doing whatever we can to get funding in various ways, but the community component of this is just so significant.
We do have to keep evolving because otherwise you're going to end up like the Hokitika Wild Foods. In 2006 had 25,000 people turning up to it. Now they're lucky to get 5,000 because they haven't changed. And that's our challenge.
There's a reason for that, cities.
Yeah, I helped organise.
Only so many foo grubs you can eat.
Or balls, whatever shots.
Too extreme.
Just to follow up on a mayor's question that he has been asking, have you applied to the community board for any funding?
The Greytown Community Board?
Greytown Community Board.
Yes, we applied for funding for street flags and received that funding.
Okay, and
they can be used for multiple years.
Yeah.
And I mean, and this is part of it. We're looking at what we can build as assets that we can continue to use year after year. And we're being smart about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Nikki, do you want to just explain the 2 levels of funding that are available through a community board?
Yeah, so community boards have 2 lots of funding. One is the grants. We have a small amount of money for grants application, and we also have the community boards have a pool of money for community development as well, which is at the discretion of the community boards. Yeah, but would be applied for through a grant.
Right. And so when
I
contact you.
No, that's right.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Let me give Nikki a call on that follow-up, but that second lot is a larger pot of money that can be applied for then things like the community flags, which has got a cap.
Right.
Most of the board can grant straight away.
Right.
Like the 2 things, right?
Okay.
Cool.
Yep. Great.
Okay. Any other questions? Narita, anything from you? Great. President, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
I totally misunderstood the question, Martin. I wasn't trying to evade it. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Rita.
Who we got next? Okay, we're going to go with May Croft first, right? Martinborough Y Waste, but she needs to get out of here to go and deliver some food. No, yeah, pack 4, yeah.
I think.
What was that, sorry, mate?
Page 33.
And then we'll go with Whatever Whānau Trust. Yeah, that's that'll be second. There's Mary here.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Then we'll go.
Afternoon, mate.
I think John, 3 of us will be out. Okay, we'll do Mary last night, so because John's not here, is he?
No, John's not here.
No, okay, I think we'll do Mary. Okay, cool.
So, Mr. Chair, Martin, can I have the next lot of numbers? Application
Yeah,
numbers?
so Mary, so the next line is 202,326, followed by 202,325, then 202,330, and finishing with 202,329.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next one is page, was it page 33? Was it? Sorry, May.
All right.
Okay, so May, just to reiterate, but some people have just recently arrived. Councillors have read the applications, have gone through, so this is a chance for you to speak in support of your application. Expand on the application, focus on key points. You have 5 minutes, which includes 1 or 2 minutes of question time, so basically 3 minutes. Amy here is the timekeeper. She'll give you the whip at 3 minutes or a gentle sign. The meeting is being live streamed, as well as Ms. Bishop, the Mayor and Councillor Woodcock. We have Nerita from the Māori Standing Committee who is online as well. The floor is yours.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for allowing us to present. It's good. And thank you for putting me forward in the list. It's Food Bank Day today.
Very
So
good.
I've come from the Food Bank. And
A few deliveries to do.
there's 14 people there. Sadly, I think the numbers have increased. The expectation was after COVID that the numbers would go down, but they haven't because of obvious reasons. The economic times are hard. So today we are packing 59 food boxes. 15 of those are for Greytown. So what we're applying for is in the past we've had a 2-year partnership with the council for $10,000 per year, but since then Greytown have come under the umbrella of the now called the Social Crust, which is combined both the food banks and any other thing we might develop on site. So since then, with Greytown coming on board, we have we shared premises, but obviously the overhead costs are greater with more people. And we've used that money to provide things like paper bags, power, printing cartridges towards rates, that sort of thing. And so obviously with another town coming in with us, it's not double cost, which is probably a good thing for the council, that we share the costs. So we're applying for 15,000 to cover those costs. And ideally in partnership, I don't know if you're still doing 2-year partnerships, but that's what we had before, but whether they're continuing. So what we're finding is that government funding over COVID was exceptionally good, but before COVID, government did not fund food banks. And so after COVID, their intention was not to fund them. And so some food banks have found that a huge struggle and have actually put a cap on how many people can get food and how often you can get it. Well, the model we use would not fit well with that philosophy. So we've managed through the generosity of the community to keep running the model that we feel is life-giving and certainly mana enhancing to the people, and that they choose what they get from the food bank. And what's really an exciting thing about that is people they really do respond in a way of only taking what they need. The philosophy, of course, is if you got nothing and you're offered something, you take as much as you can get. But if you know that you can get that next week as well, you will soon only take what you need. And that's what we're finding. So we don't have any issues, as you've seen in the media, with other food banks, that people get aggressive but that's mostly because, you know, they're hungry and they cannot get to feed, to cope with their children. So I feel very proud of our communities in that they have given to sustain the model that we run, and we feel good about it. The volunteers today were saying, you know, they enjoy being there, and certainly the clients come in, we get to know them and trust them, and we're planning on expanding what we're able to offer there. So that's enough from me. If you've got some
That's right, thank you. You watch it?
Yes, I wonder if I'm understanding things correctly here, mate. I'm looking at page 42, which you won't understand, but it's your profit and loss
Yes.
page. And I think it says that your income was 102,000
Yes.
and your expenses were 12,000.
Oh, well, mostly the money is given for food.
Yeah.
So, you know, unless I had that in front of me, I can't really answer your question, Martin, but that our expenses are 12,000. And the expenses, are you talking about the expenses as from the money that we were given from you?
Look, Nikki will show you the page that I was looking at.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have to get the accountant, which is Rona Lovell. She would have prepared these.
Right.
I'd rather do that than answer and not
Fair enough.
know what I'm talking about, Martin. But certainly, mostly people the problem for us is to have money that's given that we can use for other things other than food is important. And certainly I think, you know, we share the responsibility of people in our community and their well-being.
No. So what May does, I think it's a great effort what she does and everyone that helps her out. Yeah, I haven't really got any questions for you. It's great what you do.
Nerita, do you have anything?
Just out of interest, May, kia ora, May. How far reaching is your food bank? Is it Martinborough community out to the coast?
No, we go right away down to Kuranawa and we do rural deliveries out as far as Tora. So it's a huge net that we gather in.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you.
And Greytown.
And Greytown, yeah.
And Greytown, because
Yeah, Greytown.
and any areas between, you know, that come farming areas and that. In fact, there's quite a few rural people come to the food bank.
So I guess it's, you know, the tragedy is that we even need something like this. Mate, you mentioned other programs that you were looking to start.
Yes, well, we think that it's very good for people because if we're seeing them regularly, even though it's only for a short time, you build a level of trust, and that trust means that people often will open up to you about other things, and often food is not the only issue. So we already do quite a bit of advocacy. We will go with people to meetings or help them fill out a form or whatever. But we are wanting to develop a budget, some of the volunteers to do a budgeting thing. Not that we will force people to do it, but that we'll offer it. And we feel that people will pick that up with people they know and trust rather than somebody that comes in that they don't know. We've learned that that's a big thing, to get to know us and trust the people that work there. Sure. And it makes a difference. So we're talking about establishing that.
Okay, well, my other question is, roughly, is there a time frame that you sort of see people using you for as an ongoing thing? You might have seen them for 2 or 3 weeks just while they get through.
It is both and. Some people, of course, by the time they come to ask, have absolutely used every other resource they have. So it's not true that it only takes 3 food parcels to get you back on your feet. So we will give people food until they tell us they don't need it. And in saying that, we see them regularly, so there's always the checks and balances. But our experience is most people are honest and, you know, only take what they need. And it's a win-win situation to get somebody, to help somebody actually find their way through a bit of a hard time.
So, and the other question is, it says here you applied for other funding,
Yes.
but it doesn't say what and for what, for how much.
We applied to the community board
Yeah,
and for 5,000 from the Greytown Community Board.
Yeah.
And that was because when Greytown first came on board, they came with no funding. And so the community board were generous enough to
that's been approved.
get, yes, it has, and we got that. We applied to the Greytown Lands Trusts and we're successful. We got $2,500 from them. We got $9,000 from Trust House to pay the first year's rent on the property. Yeah.
Anybody else? Any other questions? No, Narita, anything else? Okay, May, thank you very, very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Okay, Matt. Matt here?
It's Talia.
Oh, sorry, Martin, sorry, is it? Talia. Sorry, Talia. Wairarapa Whānau Trust, 202-325. Amy will call you at 3 minutes. So there's the questions following that. Look, page number, please.
They're on the same book, same block.
It's just because they were finding pages. At 27. Sorry. That is organised, we just don't make it look like it.
You're looking very organised.
Everybody on the page? We all, okay, great. Again, whenever you're ready,
Cool, yeah.
Amy will raise her hand at 3 minutes.
Kia ora koutou, everyone. My name's Talia. I'm a team leader for the Wairarapa Whānau Trust. And yeah, I'll just introduce, do you want to introduce yourself too?
Kia ora everyone, my name is Tyzak. I am one of the workers within the Wairarapa Whānau Trust.
Yeah, so I thought it'd be good to bring one of our teammates along so you can meet him as well. But I thought today we'd just talk a little bit about the mahi that we've been doing in Wairarapa and share some stories. Yeah, and welcome your questions at the end. So currently we've got a couple of youth workers, Tyzak and another one, Kara, employed to work in Kodinui College for 20 hours a week. And these youth workers are engaged in a lot of the breakfast clubs, the school events, and supporting in the mental health week coming up, mentoring our young people in the schools. Some of you may be aware, but there was recent loss in the school. And so we've seen the importance of having these youth workers to journey alongside these young people and support during this time. Some of the programs we run in the school, we have a travellers program that is for the Year 9 students, because transitioning into school is often a bit of a struggle. Going from intermediate to college is a big jump. So supporting them through with confidence and self-esteem and through those challenges. Another group we're running in the school is something called a Take Action Rōpū, and this is a space for engaging some of the Year 12s and Year 11 students to really just bring their voice to the table, sort of similar to a youth board, but actually hearing their needs and some of the things that they see happening in their school. So this could be things around mental health, it could be things around we're needing more safe spaces for young people, whatever those issues are, bringing them to the table and creating spaces for a platform for them. Really, it's a way for them to be the leaders and inspire them to be the kaitiaki of our future in Wairarapa. So those are a few programs that are happening in Kodinui. And Tyzak here is going to speak a little bit we're also in the intermediate school, and he's going to share a little bit about some mentoring that he's been doing there. Do you want to speak to that?
Sure. So feel rude facing away from me. Yes, kia ora. So as a youth worker, a lot of what we do is developing the skills of young people and ensuring they have places to thrive. The mentoring aspect of this is developing the relational side. Meeting up from week to week, how are you going? What goals have you set? And how can I help you with that? Building on it and then gradually building them up to the point where they can thrive on their own, and create their own opportunities.
Yeah, and alongside the mentoring, we also are running a group called Core YO, which takes them on a journey of discovering who they are. So that's with the year 8s, which is an awesome opportunity to then continue that relationship within the college. So a lot of them transitioned there in Koronui. So built some awesome connections through that program as well. And then alongside that, outside of the school and the community, we have an intermediate youth group going at the moment. And that has been a good time of just creating spaces of belonging, connection, eating pie together, and yeah, developing these young people. We had one of our young people who recently told us that this is like the highlight of his week coming here to the youth group. And that was encouraging because a lot of these young people feel like they don't have much else to go to in the week. So yeah, we're hoping next year to also start a college group if we've got enough people and resources. So trying to build team at the moment. Yeah, so those are a few things. Isaac, do you want to the last little thing?
So lastly, I want everyone here to think about someone that meant a lot to them when they were younger. Someone who impacted your life and your direction of where you're heading. Yuri Bronfenbrenner, world-renowned child psychologist, says every child needs at least one adult who is irrationally crazy about him or her. This is a key part in their development for themselves and giving back to their communities. This is why we do what we do. We want to provide holistic support to rangatahi, our youth, to become leaders and hope of tomorrow. Here today, we want to ask you to be irrationally crazy about our youth.
Thank you. We also have a couple of handouts that we want to give you, which also talks more in detail, which you can take away with you. It wasn't created for this, but it's just a report that we gave the school a while ago. So I'll just send those out if that's okay.
We came with freebies, you know.
Sorry, no chocolate. Oh yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Chocolate's always worked on. Okay, questions? Your worship.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Talia. So I'm looking at question 4 of the application that you filled out. And it starts by asking the total cost of the project. And the number that's down there is $135,000. So I'm assuming that refers to everything that you've just described to us, the work you do in the schools, et cetera. And then you're asked your organisation's contribution, and that's put at 115,000. Now, in this case, your organisation, is that the Anglican Church, the Whānau Trust, or who is contributing 115?
Yeah, as far as I know, because I'm not a trustee, so but I'll answer as best as I can on that. It is, so the Whānau Trust is interlinked with the wider Anglican Church, but it's a separate trust that was started. So we just look for funding support in different avenues in different areas. Yeah, so I think it's interlinked with both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just continue then. So you have a project that's going to cost 135,000. Your organisation has contributed 115,000. That leaves a gap of 20,000.
Yeah.
You've then got other funding from things like Trust House, the public trust, comes to roughly 80,000. And so that would suggest that your income far exceeds the cost of the project to date.
Yeah.
And now you're looking for another $20,000 from the council. That doesn't sort of balance in my head.
Yeah, good question. Something I didn't speak to was that we have a lot of new things happening and things we're wanting to start. So the biggest thing is sort of building team for us at the moment. So we've recently just employed Isaac as well, which is adding to those employment costs. And yeah, having like, I guess a big cost for is the youth work wages, equipment and that sort of thing. But we're also looking towards starting a youth hub, which is actually starting the second week of holidays on Featherston Street. So that's talked about more in there. But that will be a space for young people to come after school and that sort of thing. So there's lots of new things that are happening and costs that need to be covered with those. So yeah, that I guess that's what speaking from. Like there's a huge need, but we just need the support and resources and people to meet that need. Yeah.
Thanks, Carly and Isaac. Thanks for coming. So with the work you do at college and the other schools, is it all in school, or have you got a location where sometimes the youth go to you? Or?
Yeah. So we try to be based in the community and in the school. So both, because we feel like both is important. So part of that is the youth group, which we spoke about, and then the youth hub, which we're hoping to start as a bit of a bridge of connection. So a place for these young people to go. And that was a need that was brought up from speaking with young people of we don't have a kind of hangout space or space we can just go and connect. And so that's the dream and vision behind this. Is that they'll have that place as well. After school, and then the mentoring is an after school thing that Tyzek's doing. So those are sort of the main things at the moment on top.
So where are you doing that, Tyzek? After school, where?
So for the mentoring, we can go between, we have a space which is across the road from the fire station in Featherston.
Yep.
That was the old church. And we also have the Featherston school that we're utilized as well.
School. Yeah, no, it's that's all good for I've got. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Narina?
Tēnā koe, tēnā korua. Thank you for your presentation. Really interesting stuff, and I'm glad that there's some people out there just filling that little space for our rangatahi. Just one question, is it predominantly the rangatahi that you're seeing, that you're mentoring, are they predominantly Māori, or is it just rangatahi?
That's a real mix of young people. Like we want it to be a space for all young people. Yeah, is important to us is a safe space for everyone from all cultures. So we hold that as a value in our youth group, is being able to, like on the moment we're going on a bit of a journey about learning about tikanga Māori and some of the values that we hold and what values we can incorporate that into our youth group and that sort of thing. So trying to make it a safe space for young people from all walks of life and backgrounds. Yeah.
And so in that light of kaupapa Māori values, so you guys, I see there was a mention of kaitiakitanga or kaitiaki. So I take it you have other kaupapa values that guide you when you're working with rangatahi and young people? Have you got other kaupapa values?
Do you want to speak to the kaupapa stuff we've been doing, Jose?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So for the past few weeks, we've been creating our own kaupapa within our groups. Each youth individually has their own board, and the plan is to have our kaupapa, our kawas up on the wall where we can see them. We give each youth the choice of their own ones, where we have our own also. And when we have these, it's also a reminder of upholding what we've said we will do. Like a visual reminder also. Some examples, for example, kotahitanga, unity, becoming one with each other, and then traveling like in a pack, helping each other out. There's one from my course that we have, which is called titautanga, which means helping out in the kitchen, doing the dishes. So yeah, we've got that.
I guess the key thing, I suppose the key thing I was just saying is, or thinking is, these shared values. So you have, Kapai, thank you.
Question.
Okay, no questions to me, but we're good on our time. Thank you guys very, very much for coming and presenting to us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Dominic, well, to preamble, Dominic. Oh, Cheryl's here. Cheryl. Same pack, yeah. Pack 5 is for those that did not present. So thank you. Page 105. Thank you. The rest of them. No problem. Quickly. Yeah. Got a few more trees. Just the last tree in the rainforest. Good. So sure, you're clear on how this works?
Yes.
3 minutes?
Yes, 3 minutes now. Happy to start. Yeah,
Yeah,
Cool.
everybody ready? Yeah, all good. Start whenever you're ready.
cool. So thank you for having me today. Just to quickly present for Wellington Free Ambulance. As you will be aware, hopefully Wellington Free Ambulance is the only emergency ambulance service here in the Wairarapa, obviously servicing South Wairarapa and our community. So the reality for the ambulance service currently is that we get approximately just over 8% of our funding from government, which leaves us with a shortfall. And so we heavily rely on such grants as these and other organisations to support us through that shortfall, to keep the wheels turning. And to ensure that ambulances are up to date. We have to replace on average about 8 ambulances a year when they reach about 600,000 kilometres. We trade them in. And obviously to keep all of our equipment and necessaries up to date and in good working order. The dashboard that I've presented is just a quick snapshot of what happens for the South Wairarapa. You can see that even in the last few months, our number of jobs are increasing within the South Wairarapa, and we've given you a breakdown there of the sorts of things that we're going to, as well as age and demographics. I think the key thing really for us is that why do we look to a council to help with our community funding or our funding for our community? We remain free. It's what we want to do. It's been our strategy since 1927. And so when anybody calls 111 and they support our community in remaining free is paramount towards our organisation, because what we don't want is people being constrained by financial issues and therefore not getting the medical help that they're requiring. You will know here in Martinborough alone, we've worked very closely with New Zealand Fire to ensure that we've got a good first response post here. And that's critical given the geographical areas we have to cover here in the Wairarapa, and particularly for those coastal areas around Tora, White Rock and large transport times. And that's pretty much it for me.
Oh, well done. Good presentation, a quick one.
And in fact, it was so good, I have no questions.
I've got a couple of curiosity questions. So how many ambulances in the whole Wairarapa?
So we run a 12-hour shift, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and then 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And at any time there's 3 EAS ambulances, 2 patient transfer officers, and then we have our emergency response vehicle as well. And we can call and have done on many occasions on Wellington crews to join us if we are the jobs are stacking, as we call it, or we do a recall system with our existing staff. So we have 30 permanent EAS staff residing here in Wairarapa.
So it's going to be 9 or 10 for each shift, but one on time on at the same time. So
and we have about 6 spare vehicles over here, and that's really critical for that 5:30 to 6:30 time frame, because as the changeover of shifts occurs, you can guarantee day crew are on a job and the night jobs start coming in. So they hop into the spare trucks so that we can respond appropriately.
sometimes you don't finish at 6, you finish at 8.
We finish. Well, we do have a mandatory stand down at 14 hours. And so if you see an abandoned vehicle on the side of the road, we've had to go and pick the crew up. Yeah.
I think what you guys, guys and girls do is bloody awesome. So thanks very much.
Nerida?
Oh, no questions, but I love the work you do. My father was an ambulance driver for many, many years. So yeah.
Conflict of interest right there.
Good.
Yeah, no questions from me either. That presentation.
Fabulous.
Very much.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Oh, it's here.
Oh, sorry.
Is Mary here? Okay. Who's next? Okay. Mary, 22339. Mary, come grab a seat, Mary. We just got to get your page. going backwards, Booktown page 57.
Backwards.
Sorry, Mary, yeah, Booktown backwards, Booktown. So Mary, just to recap, 5 minutes is set aside, 3 minutes roughly for you.
Yeah.
In terms of speaking, Narita is online, it's live streamed. Amy will raise her hand at about the 3 minute mark, so you know what's going on, where you're at in terms of your time, and begin whenever you're ready.
Oh, thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to start by saying thank you to the South Wairarapa District Council for the funding we received for this year's Young Readers Program. It was a fantastic program, and you were the key funder for that program, and you touched the hearts of at least 1,500 students throughout the Wairarapa. But the predominant number of students come from the South Wairarapa. So this year, we're asking for funding for the Young Readers Program for next year. And in the application, I put a number of details about, you know, how we came up with the funding request. So I can answer the questions on that if you like. But we, our application, we think, talks to the three key areas: social well-being, economic well-being, and cultural well-being. And Featherston Booktown exists primarily to help with the regeneration of Featherston, which in the 8 years that we've been going, you can see that there is a real sense of community pride now, and a sense of identity based around the book and reading and writing. So for the Young Readers Program for 2024, we think we talk to social wellbeing because we engage so many students early. We have events for preschoolers right through to secondary school students. And that's based on research that shows if children learn to read for pleasure early, their chances of success, increased success later in life, are greatly enhanced. We have a huge team of volunteers, 134. Actually, we had 134 last year as well. So that number remains consistent over the years, which I think is interesting. We've spoken to our volunteers. They volunteer because they gain a sense of belonging. They gain a sense of contributing to the community. They make friends. A lot of our volunteers are a lot older, and they make an ongoing commitment to Featherston Booktown. They also volunteer because they want to give back to the community that they love. So our volunteers come not just from Featherston, they also come from the rest of the South Wairarapa and a few from the greater region, Wairarapa region. We've also seen recently, you know, there is an increased community pride within Featherston, and I think the library hours closing shows that there were a lot of respondents from Featherston who really wanted the library to remain open on the weekends. They saw that as an important part of Booktown too, that we had a library, a strong library. Economic well-being. So when we started in 2015, there was one secondhand bookshop in Featherston. That was the only bookshop in the South Wairarapa region. It's now 9 in South Wairarapa and 11 altogether in the whole of the Wairarapa. Featherston Booktown has picked up on that. We've got wonderful funding. We had funding from Trust House, now Ministry for Culture and Heritage, funding a Book Lovers Trail app, which we are launching next month. It's another way for tourists to view our region, not just through the lens of food and wine, but also through literature and culture and places of interest. We also have this beautiful book voucher scheme, which we've had since we started in 2015, and we have friends and business friends from the region who contribute to it. Each child in the South Wairarapa gets a $15 book voucher. Each primary school student, in year 9 and 10 at Kuranui. This year, 53% children used those vouchers, which is up 10% on last year. So that puts money back into the bookseller environment, but it also shows that children are choosing books of their choice.
So 5 minutes, Mary, so.
Oh,
Sorry, no,
I've had 5 minutes
take
already.
5 minutes here.
Oh,
Okay,
I haven't told you about the cultural wellbeing, but we are
could you wrap that up in 2 minutes, you think?
deepening our relationship with Mana Whenua and Waitomokai Otoira. We've got Mana Whenua representation on our board and our programming committee. We're now having 2 events in the festival in Te Reo, and we're having more and more events in the Young Readers program about Maori stories and with Maori writers. So we've got, making things more accessible for people and inclusive.
Perfect. Thank you very, very much.
Any questions?
Am I allowed?
Sorry?
Am I allowed?
Of course you're good.
Well,
Rude if you were.
Well, I thought you were over time, but
No, you're fine.
one very quick question. You're seeking $25,000 from the council. Is that $25,000, does that go to the Young Readers program?
Yes, it is going straight to the Young Readers program. That will give the council the primary funder role, which I think is really important for the council. You've supported us for the previous 2 years as the key sponsor. And
That's the answer, so thank you.
Woody?
Not much. It's a great little event being there myself over time. The Young Readers thing's a great thing to get kids into books. It's awesome. When you speak about the cultural part of it, with the Māori stuff and that, which is great, is there any emphasis on any of the other stuff around the South West, especially like Featherston has a lot of culture with the old army camp history and the Fell engine, the Fell engine tracking, etc., and what was on across Creek and all that back in the day. Is there any input from that side of things?
in the Young Readers program, less so than in the Karakatea Festival program. We will be running an event in one of the museums next year's festival. And we do try to schedule program events that focus on local history as well as local writers. But that's movable feast each year, depending on what writers are around and so on.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but we are very aware of Featherston is also a place of historic interest.
Yeah.
And in that Book Lovers app, we'll be focusing on that this next year, telling those stories.
Yeah, oh, that's cool. Thanks very much.
Narita?
Ever so quickly, kia ora, Mary, nice to see you again. Thank you for your presentation. I think it's a fantastic event, Featherston Booktown, and only one request. Can we try for David Wellams next year?
Oh, named out.
Thanks, Narita. Just one question from me, Mary, and we'll thanks for being patient, mate. I appreciate it. Is it next year that the International Booktown?
Yes, yeah.
So this would dovetail in with that?
No, the International Organisation of Booktown Global Conference is in March.
Okay.
The Young Readers Festival leads into the Karakatea Festival, which is in May, the second week of May.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah.
And that's all, and funding for that is being done separately, is that right?
The IOB funding, I have put a funding application into
The
the,
creative community schemes.
Yeah.
So that they're meeting on Monday night.
Okay, cool. Thank you very, very much for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
One to go.
There you go. Thanks, mate. Greytown Scout Group. Just get to your page.
7, I think. 47?
47.
Hey, Dean, where are you going, all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Too bad.
So you've witnessed how it works. Amy will.
Yeah,
Keep
yeah,
it.
yep.
Couple of questions at the end and then
All good.
done. So again, when you're ready.
Yeah, awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for having me. Some pretty hard acts to follow. I think our request is pretty small and simple in comparison to some of the good work that's happening. But in the context of what Greytown Scout Group's trying to achieve, it's still significant. So yeah, this application is about getting some funding to help the Greytown Scout Group send at this stage about a dozen scouts to the Jamboree at the end of the year. So the Jamboree being the national, normally biannual scouting gathering for all scout groups in New Zealand. Hasn't happened for a little while because of COVID, so it's been delayed a number of times. So we've currently got 12 scouts who are wanting to go. It all has to be self-funded. So we've been doing fundraising and all sorts of things throughout the year. The money is due to be paid in about October. Last count about 3 weeks ago, we'd got to about 20,000 out of about 28,500 required. And the way it's worked is we've done a whole lot of group fundraising activities, but then also individual ones. So putting community notices up for jobs that scouts can do, so that scouts can put their hands up and so they can do some stuff directly as well as a group. Any shortfall needs to be made up by parents and family. We have already had one scout pull out partway through because of the concern about the family being able to afford the shortfall. Fortunately, that's obviously only got worse as the year's gone along, because it is expensive. It's a minimum of 2,200, which is a heck of a lot of money. And so it's highly likely we'll get close, but not quite there. And so will mean that some families will need to come up with some money, and not all families are going to be quite as able to do that. So the money we're looking for is basically just to top up the overall pot for the group of 12, and just go into that joint fundraising, I guess. So that we can get the deposit paid at the end of October. So they go just before New Year, at the end of the year. So yeah, so that's where we're at the moment. Yeah. So, yeah. Questions?
That was very clear. Thank you.
Yeah, no, Woody?
No, just to ask the question. Mark's been asking that you haven't been to the community board to Greytown to look at funding.
No, this is the only grant funding we've applied for, because at the same time we're also running the wider scouting group as well, which includes the whole scout troop of about 24 to 26 at the moment. Adventurers at about a dozen and cubs that are nearly 30. So we've applied for grant funding for the entire scout group through that, and so we've gone to a couple of different grant schemes and community groups around that. But this is the only one we've applied for Jamboree, specifically just trying to spread it around to keep things going.
No, that's good.
Nerida?
No questions from me.
No. Just whereabouts is the Jamboree, do?
Mystery Creek up on Hamilton. All scouts will go up there. It's about 7 days in total. Kids will be going, and we're going to get our group to also just spend a couple of days with Masterton Scout Group as well, because we're the only scout group in South Wairarapa District. So we'll combine with Masterton, and then both groups will spend a sort of Wairarapa Scout Group 2-3 days in Hawke's Bay, and then go across to Mystery Creek. So, and hopefully you don't have the weather issues they had in South Korea, which is a bit of a debacle for the international one. That was not good. So,
Scouts and Martin all finished in there, so all the covers told us.
Yeah. So so we're the only one in the district, and we do all three. So do the Adventurers, which is the older kids, and then do the Cubs, which is younger. So we've got a couple of kids that come in from Martinborough. Our current scout leader lives in Martinborough, so it's the only.
Yes, glad we asked that question, because that changes the whole way we look at this. So.
Yeah. So no, it just happens, and that's where the hall is. So we've got a hall up there, which is which is one of the reasons why we apply for other funding is the cost of running our hall. So that's where everything's run out of. Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks very much.
Awesome. All right. Thank you for your time, guys.
It's your time.
All right.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, shall we push pause on this and have a conversation?
Good plan.
Good plan.
When do you
Come back.
want that?
It is 2:00, 2:15. That same.
Is that okay for them?
Narita, does that work for you? 2:15?